So we have finished the first chapter, and we had elaborate discussion in the end of the chapter. And this was all starting with, that mantra viryanubhavaha maharada anusandhanad mantra viryanubhavaha. That was the last sutra of the first chapter, Sambhavapayaha. And we have already discussed that this first chapter is meant for the very advanced sadhakas who are on their way to self realization. Self realization is nothing other than being established in the Parama Shiva consciousness, that absolute I consciousness. The I here is not Ahankara. The I here is the all encompassing, all embracing Desha Kala Paricheda Sunya Brahman of the Vedanta, that I consciousness, the capital I consciousness, which doesn't leave out anything. That is that ultimate pure consciousness that we are talking about. He's saying what? Maharada Anusandhanat. What was the discussion there? If I want to revisit it very briefly in a second, like you have waves or ripples or whatever you call them, which appear on the grand ocean. The surface of the ocean is absolutely still, and out of that ocean, everything is appearing on the surface. The storm surges, the tides, the waves, the bubbles, everything you see, the appearance has nothing to do with the absolute stillness of the sea at the bottom of it. Similarly, all the sansara, all that we see, are essentially like bubbles and ripples on the surface of it. Everything is emerging out of that ocean of unlimited, all-encompassing consciousness. That Chaitanya says. That is the Maharada Anusandhanat. Then what happens? When you do this, then you are saying mantra viryanubhavaha. What is the mantra virya? The potency, the power of the mantra. Mantra is, in a very literal sense, an assemblage of a few varnas. They're coming together and the mantra is creating. So earlier we have already discussed as to how the mantra is constituted by a few varnas. Like you say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namaha Shivaya, Om Kling Krishnaya Namaha. So all these are varnatmaka. Now these varnas themselves are varna matrikas. And that means they are sakyatmika. They are representing energies of whom? Of the Paramashiva. So these are kind of bundles of energy which appear as if they are separate fragments, but these separate fragments are essentially aspects of that grand unlimited ocean of energy, that field of energy, and that field of energy is nothing but the consciousness of Paramashiva. The absolute Brahman, as they call it in Vedanta, here is Paramashiva. So he's saying, and you will be able to experience that. Mantra Viryanubhavaha. So you are connecting with that potential. How? When you do Anusandhana, we had discussed here, is not about a search. Whenever you talk about Anusandhana, there is something lacking in you that you are looking for it. So we, misplace the, let's imagine that you misplace your pen or pencil or spectacles or book. Sometimes you forget your password and you're looking for it. Here, Anusandhana means deep, unfettered, uninterrupted, constant meditation on that deep ocean of consciousness. That is what is going to enable you to realize the power, the potential of the mantras. As I told you that even in Bhagavad Gita, when we were doing, if you look at the last couple of verses in any chapter, they are concluding that ongoing chapter and they are holding a kind of a trailer. It's like a curtain raiser for the next chapter. And similarly here, the last sutra of the first chapter gives us an inkling of what may be discussed in the next chapter. It's about mantras. And the second chapter is we are going in. We'll start with a very lighter commentary, which sort of summarizes everything. And first we'll start with the Vritti. In the second chapter, the Ditya Unmeshaha, the first sutra, you know what? You may have a doubt. He's explaining that. Tibra Sakti Prapavatam Suprabruddha Yoginam Tibra Sakti Pratavatam. Now Sakti Patavatam. Sorry, not Praptavatam, Patavatam. So sometimes, as we had discussed earlier, there is a notion of Saktipata in Kashmiri Saivism. Saktipata is a mystical process where the Guru, representing the Supreme Sakti or energy of the Paramashiva, because he self-realized, he transfers that to the student. We have mantra diksha. There are different kind of dikshas which are discussed in Swachhanda Tantra. There are different ways in which initiation takes place. Sometimes, as Ramana Maharshi used to do, he used to intensely look into the eyes of somebody he used to find is a fitter candidate for enlightenment. And that fellow used to get transformed. Many of his doubts, and it happens, and I have talked to many acharyas here in Rishikesh, and many of the senior acharyas of Vedanta, they have told me that when you have a lot of doubts in your mind, and he was mentioning about one of the gurus who used to be very quiet, very introverted, and hardly speaking. He will be always absent-minded. And he said that I would have 10 questions in my mind. I'll go and sit there in front of him. We will not disturb him. We will not ask anything. But in the sheer presence of him, they will close their eyes. And soon the answers to their queries or questions will start beginning to reveal themselves. They used to find answers from within. But the real factor is that conditioning, that influence, that divine influence, that spiritual influence of the master. And they used to find answers to many of their questions, and that's what I've heard. What is that Saktipata in Kashmiri Saivism? We will discuss that as we are moving forward. So this is also a process of initiation. And he's saying, Tibra Saktipata Vratam. So there is a very powerful initiation which has taken place. And this fellow is now following up. First, he has done a lot of sadhana. Then there is a Saktipata. And there is an initiation. And then he is on that path of practice for enlightenment. Suprabruddha Yoginam. So it's not like a normal yogi. He's talking about, he's not as good as somebody who understands Udyama Bhairavaha. No, he has not gone that far. But he is a very advanced sadhaka. He's a Madhyama Adhikari. Suprabruddha Yoginam. He has awakened. He has woken up. Means many of the questions and doubts and anxieties which chase a very initial novice, somebody who is just making an entry into it, the obstacles that he faces, this sadhaka doesn't face it. He has made some progress. Krite sambhavapayasya tattva padesa kramuktam. Now, sambhavapaya, he may be able to enter, but there is a process. And that is what is being discussed here. Kintu, that is what was discussed in the first chapter. If the Saktipata is very Tibra and he is one of the most advanced sadhakas, then he's saying, Kintu, madhyamadhikarinopi jnanavantaha bhavayuhu. Theek hai, maybe one is not having that powerful initiation and he's not well established and he's not a prabuddha yogin. Even then, he may be a madhyamadhikare and jnanavantaha bhavayuhu. He may have some knowledge, he may have some aspiration. Tasmat sampratam saktanam upayaha pradarsyate. So he's explaining the saktopaya. So I have told you that When you are directly meditating on the Shiva, you are not differently meditating on the Sakti in the sense that Bhedatmaka Vritti is not there. You see no duality. You are able to pierce into the top secret of the sadhana of being identified with the Paramashiva. And because there are certain techniques we have already discussed, Sakti Chakra Sangha Vishwa Sangharaha, he knows that the Sakti Chakra, this whole Paramashiva, this whole creative process, and is able to quickly see through this whole process of creation and return to that supreme consciousness, I consciousness, represented by Paramashiva, and he identifies and dissolves in that Paramashiva consciousness. Tatra purvasmin prakarane Shakti Parasamvit Shakti. What is Shakti? That is Parasamvit, that supreme consciousness. Purna ahanta mantra virya sphara rupa iti uktam. So in the first chapter already I just mentioned, in the earlier chapter we have discussed that Shakti means Parasamvit Shakti. And what is this? Swatantra Shakti and Purnahanta. Both of the things are there. Because when there is a kind of a duality which emerges, what are the two possibilities that take place? One is Swatantra Hani and Apurna Manyata. Experience of some kind of deficiency. If you are in very good meditation and you break your meditation, you come back. First few minutes, you are in a very good state. But after 2 days, without knowing, you have got descended. You go to Badrinath and spend few days in a retreat, you feel very good. And you come to Rishikesh or go to Delhi or go to Orissa or go to Calcutta or whatever. First couple of days, you are in control of all the movements in the mind. But slowly as you interact with the surrounding, in the olden days, based on your sanskaras, the sanskaras strike back. They'll take position of you. So they will again retain, they will enter into your life. And they'll pull you back into the game, which was played. And you are a kind of both an active participant and also a victim. You are playing the game and you are also suffering the consequences. And you think you are enjoying, but you are actually a victim of it. This is how it goes on, this samsara, because where you think you are deciding, but actually you are a victim of the decisions that are taking place through you. Therefore, he is saying, mantra virya spara rupa iti uktam. That is that para samvit shakti. That is what we have already, para samvit shakti, purna ahanta. So there is no deficiency in it. It's not any limitation thereon. It's free from the limitation of space and time and substance. And mantra virya sphara rupa. Mantra virya sphara. Virya is the potency of the mantra. That is mantra virya. Sphara rupa means expansion. Expansive expression. That is the Sakti. Mantra virya sphara rupa iti uktam. Now the student will ask, who is on this path of meditation, Koso mantraha. Okay, now tell me, what is that mantra? You made a very big statement. What is the big statement that you made? Purna ahanta. Purna ahanta mantra virya sphara rupa. Oh, very big statement. That supreme I consciousness and mantra virya sphara rupa. So that supreme consciousness is nothing but the expansion of the mantra virya, the potential of the mantra. You see, in every sentence there is a deep secret, and we have to enter into the words to be able to make sense of it. So Purna Ahanta is mentioned, then you sing mantra, then virya, because this chapter is about sadhana. Mantra is there, and the mantra has potential. Sphara is expansion. This expansion or expansive, fuller or fullest expression of the potential of the mantra is nothing other than that Purna Ahanta Rupa, means it's not different from the Parama Shiva Tattva. You get my point? How cryptic and how loaded is this particular sentence? We are saying Om Namah Shivaya. Let us take this mantra to make it easy for us. So when we are doing Om Namah Shivaya, this mantra has its own potential, that virya. And when we meditate on it, and this potency of the mantra is expanded to the fullest extent, this is no different from that Purna Ahanta, that Shakti. And that Shakti is not different from Shiva. So there are two-way traffic. One is that supreme consciousness through Maya, how it manifests, and then you are having a prop called mantra. And then when you meditate on it, the potency is fully expanded and expressed. And that is no other than that Parasambhi Sakti, which is not different from Shiva. So by doing Om Namah Shivaya sadhana, this particular chapter is going to explain what is the particular trick that we need to adopt when we are doing mantra sadhana. What is the secret of mantra? Sanatji had asked that question. The technique of sadhana and mantras is to have that abhedatmaka vritti, non-dual meditation on the mantra. The moment you do sadhana, the words become irrelevant. The potentiality that is hidden in it, that is expanded to the fullest extent, and that fullest expansion is no different from the Parasambhi Sakti, Punnahanktarupa Sakti, which is no different from Shiva. So exactly, you are having that Shivakara vritti. You start with some dualist perspective where you are a sadhaka, you are doing a mantra ucharana, but in the end, your consciousness becomes Shivamaya. That is what they will explain here. So, iti jigyasayang mantrasya swarupam tavat nirupayati. Ab jigyasa, there is a doubt in the mind of the student. When this doubt emerges, jigyasayam mantrasya swarupam. What is the swarupa of the mantra? What it is like? Tavat nirupayati, that is explaining. And where that is explained? That is explained in the mantra itself. That is explained in this first sutra of the second chapter. What is that? Is saying Chittam Mantraha. The first sutra of the second chapter of Siva Sutra is Chittam Mantraha. So you see, again, this is so mystical, and there is a bit of occult mystery in it. You just enter into it and really enjoy it. So there is imagination of a sadhaka who is sitting to do a mantra ucharana. Okay. So the external manifestation of the sadhana is that you will be muttering a certain mantra. Okay. And then you are a mantri, you are chanting that mantra. And then he's saying that when actual trick of doing this meditation you know, you will not limit your exercise to chanting, because that is only an external manifestation. That is the stupidest way of doing mantra sadhana, chanting the mantra. But that is how you start it. But that is absolutely not, it's a necessary, not a sufficient condition for mantra sadhana. Then what is a sufficient condition? That is what is being explained here. Chittam mantraha. That person who is meditating, and chitta here two things. One is that Parama Shiva Tattva, he will explain in the commentary, and the sadhaka. There's complete non-duality. There's no distinction between the guy who is doing the mantra sadhana, the mantra, its power, its expansion, which is equivalent to the Parasambhi Sakti, which is again essentially one way to reach Parama Shiva, because this Parasambhi Sakti is no other than the Parasambhi Sakti of the Parama Shiva. That is the first principle that Pancha Sakti he has. First one is Chitta Sakti, then Ananda Sakti. Then you have Ichha Sakti and Jnana Sakti and Kriya Sakti. So, and then they become Pancha Kanchuka. When you have this duality, the Maya, then the veiling comes. We have discussed that earlier. So, he's saying Chittam Mantraha, Acha Thik. Then you will ask me this question. Okay, sir. So, you have introduced one more word. I asked you to tell me something about mantra, then you have brought in another elephant in the room. Now explain to me, what does it mean to say Chittam Mantraha? What is the Chitta? Then he's explaining. Chetyate vicharyate paratattvam anena iti chittam. Chetyate, you become aware of. And then vicharyate, and you are being able to think about it. You are trying to vichara. What is that paratattva? What is Brahman? Like we did several texts, Prakarana Granthas, like Viveka Chudamani, or this Atma Bodha or Aporokshanuvati. There were many techniques which were discussed. how to meditate on that Parama Tattva. That Paratattva vicharyate chetyate anena iti. By that you do. That's why it's called Chitta. So Chitta, the mind, that's what I'm saying. Chitta or consciousness can mean the thoughts you have, and the purpose of thinking is to abandon thinking, because you want to go to that unbridled state of pure, thoughtless, free consciousness. But how do you start? We are starting with a discussion on what is mind and what is thought and how to go to that highest level of consciousness. So he's saying chetyate vicharyate paratattvam anena iti chittam. By that you are able to meditate on that supreme consciousness, paratattva. Arthat, what does it mean? Aham spuratta satatva teja vishesha pranavadi paramarsha rupam samvedanam. That will also come in Siva Sutra Vimarshini, and therefore I'm not making directly an entry into it, but we could do it jolly well here. Spuratta satatva. You know that each word of this is highly loaded. Satatva. Spuratta. That's Purana, this whole. So if you look at how the Kshemaraja is explaining all of this, there are 3-4 words that you need to make sense of. Sa Tattva, what is that Sa? He has a different set of words. So when we reach there, this whole thing, Vishesha Pranavadi Paramarsha Rupam Pranava. Pranava is Omkara. In Vedanta. In Veda is Omkara. But it's the commentator, different commentators have explained, Pranava for different traditions are different. So there are roughly about 4 Pranavas, which are discussed in different spiritual traditions. So the Pranava, for example, in the Saiva tradition, is Hum. Hum, you remember when you had in the Saptasati Chandi, Devi, when these demons are coming, she just says Hum and she destroys them. By just saying Hum, she is able to destroy. Because that is the Pranava in the Shaiva tradition. In the Sakta tradition, Kling. Of course, Kling also is a powerful Bija mantra for also the Vaishnavas. So Kling. So that is the Sakta Pranava. And what is the Maya Bija? Hring. That is the Maya Pranava. And then the Vedic Pranava is Om. So you have 4 Pranavas. Hum, Kling, Hring, and Om. And Sa Tattva. What is that Sa? Who? Now here, Prasada, there is a word which will come in the Kshemaraja's Siva Sutra Vimarshini. That Prasada here, it means, I am just explaining so that I don't have to repeat when we go there. In the Siva Sutra Vimarshini, he just mentions, if you look at that sentence, Idanim Saktopayaha Pradarsyate. Siva Sutra Vimarshini, you don't have the text, but you just listen to me. Abhi Saktopaya kya hai? We are explaining to you. Tatra Sakti Mantra Virya Sphara Rupa. There, that Shakti is what? Parasamvi Shakti. Purna Ahanta. He mentioned Purna Ahanta Mantra Virya Sphara Rupa iti uktam. And he's saying Mantra Virya Sphara Rupa. That which the Shakti is essentially an expansion of the potency, the power of the mantra. Iti Prathama Unmeshanta Sutrita. Now you remember in the last one, in the last chapter, Maharada Anusandhanat Mantra Viryanu Bhavaha. It is mentioned there. He's saying that is whatever mentioned, Prathama Unmeshat. In the end, it is mentioned Sutrita, the last sutra. Tat Swarupa Vivechana Purashara. So in order to explain what is that, in order to viveka, vivechana, to analyze it, what does it mean? Unmeshantaram Aravamano Mantra Swarupam Tavat Nirupayati. So he's now explaining in the next one, the second Unmesha is about the Saktopaya. So first thing that he has to define, explain, elaborate on is to tell us what is the meaning of this word mantra, because we are advised to do mantra sadhana. The same thing is writing here, Chetyate Bimrishyate. Chetyate vicharyate, the other commentator, Kshemaraja is writing, Chetyate vimrishyate. So you are aware of it and you are doing vimarsha, vichara on this. Anena param tattvam iti chittam, that is chitta. Punna sphuratta satattva prasada pranavadi vimarsha rupam samvedanam. What is that chitta? Chitta is an awareness, that consciousness of what? Then spuratta satattva prasada pranavadi vimarsha rupam. What is that prasada? Now prasada is that whatever that prasadam you have. No, it's not that. It is prasada. And what is he trying to explain here? He's saying, and the commentators say that it is a very specific meaning here. It means sauhu. If you do, for example, some of the sadhanas with Sri Vidya, Om Kling Shauhu, aise karke, there is a mantra. Shauhu, this is one of the Bija mantras there. And the Shauhu is explaining here that this is a very powerful mantra, because that Shauhu, you have Sat first. Sat, which exists. So As and At, that together it becomes Sat. And then Ta is removed and O is added. Okay. And that O represents, Us represents pure existence. And that O represents Suddha Vidya, Ishvara, and Sadasiva. You know, when we go from the top to the bottom, you remember the 36 tattvas that we had studied in the first chapter. You have Suddha Vidya, Ishvara, and Sadasiva. And they're full of Jnana and Kriya. So Sa, Haland, and O, Sau. And then you have Visharga, Shauhu. And the Visharga, you have two dots, one above, one below. The above dot means Shiva, and the below dot means Shakti. That is the mystic interpretation of that Bija mantra called Shauhu. So what does Sauhu represent? The whole universe. The whole universe, all the 36, 31 tattvas that we are talking about, that everything, it is the supreme I conscious. Okay, the Shauhu is also called Hridaya Vija. So Shauhu, if you meditate on that, you are essentially talking about the supreme I consciousness, which encompasses, pervades the whole of this universe, because everything is essentially a projection, a creation, an expansion of that compact, pure consciousness. So that is what is referring to is prasada pranavadi vimarsha rupam samvedanam. So how do you do that chitta? Because you are understanding that punna spuratta satattva prasada pranavadi vimarsha rupam. That is what you are meditating. That is why he's saying that chitta means that you are being able to, when you are meditating on it, and you are meditating that it's essentially a reflection on that spurata, the highest light of that Paramashiva consciousness, I consciousness. And what are the qualities of this? What are the attributes of it? That mantra, man and tra. Man means, you are able to think, you are able to meditate, you are able to analyze. And then that liberates you. Like, for example, in Vedanta, we studied that if you do vichara, rite jnanam na kaivalya, karma you can do, that is for antakarana suddhi. Inishkamatamaya, if you do, and we do shakama karma, we will have some good results, but they are bandhakarakaha. This karma is the bandhakaraka. They will create some bondage. Now, if we do some nishkama karma, we can have antakarana suddhi, that prepares the ground for vairagya and jnana ichha, and then we will do shravana manana nididhyasana, and ultimately upasanadi are conducive to ascendance of the consciousness, to be able to grasp. You're going to a higher level, like you do some physical exercise, build your muscles, not because directly they're helping you become a better batsman or a bowler, but you need that basic muscle in the system to be able to run and remain physically fit, and maybe, play for a long time and not get tired, to sort of extend your, your sustaining capacity. So these are paramparaya, hitakarakaha, all these activities are very helpful. So you are doing it. Not necessarily directly they are going to give you the cricketing skills. For that, you have to do a different sadhana. So what is that different sadhana, the cricketing skills that will make you a great batsman? You have to deal with all kinds of bowling on all kinds of pitches. I am giving this example because it's easy to grasp. Now, coming back to us, in the Vedanta thing is that vichara you have to do. So all this is saying that the mantra, that chittam, is that which enables you to meditate on that supreme consciousness and which has the ability to liberate us. What is liberation? It will protect us from samsara by terminating this birth and death, which is a result of ajnana and tatkarya. Tatkarya is what? All good, bad actions, and then papa punya. Then you will be repeating your existence in the earth in new body, new form. If you do a lot of papa karmas, you will become a pashu, you will do mishra karmas, a manushya, do very deva or very good karmas, punya karmas, and you will have a very angelic body. Maybe you will be reborn as a devata or some kind of astral body. That's not liberation. Devatas are all jivas, including Brahma himself. So only Parameshvara. Brahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartino Arjuna. Bhagavan has said it. These are all returning again and again. So these are all jivas. Only Parameshvara is permanent. All others are transient, not permanent, not nitya. So then what he's saying after that, this particular thing, is saying Tadeva mantriyate guptam, secretly you meditate on it. Antara avhedena bimrishyate. You do meditation on the mantra, you do chanting. Antara avhedena. And then internally, you don't see yourself as a meditator on the mantra. So I am the meditator. This is the mantra. I'm meditating on Paramashiva. Om Namah Shivaya mantra I'm chanting. This Bhedatmaka Vritti. Therefore, I'll get some results. No. Abhedena brimishyate parameshwara rupam anena iti krutva mantraha. So parameshwara rupa, you are able to do vichara, you are able to do meditation on, and therefore it's called mantra. Now you know the everyday language in which somebody uses that he knows a lot of mantras and all, and wo mujhe mantra kar diya, and he has a spell on me. So they're confusing mantra with black magic and this and that. Essentially a misunderstanding of the word mantra as per the spiritual tradition, because the purpose of mantra is not to cast a spell on anyone, not to get any material benefits, but to have absolute identification, a non-differentiated state of well-being in the supreme abode of our existence, which is the Paramashiva Tattva. That is the highest cherished goal of mantra sadhana, not for any minor thing, right? So you don't need a $20 billion loan to buy a house. When you are meditating on this sort of a secret science, you are absolutely not going to waste it on any minor benefit. And this is the grand thing which can liberate you. And that is what he's trying to explain. Ata eva cha Paraspuratatmaka manana dharmatmata. That paraspurata rupa, that supreme light, highest light, that swayam prakasatma. Para spuratatmaka manana dharma mata. So what is manana dharmatmata? So you are able to ponder, meditate on that supreme light of the Paramashiva Tattva. Bhedamaya sansara pramasanatmaka trana dharmata. There are two aspects. One, it unites you with the supreme consciousness. The byproduct, like for example, when you have jnana, atma jnana, then there is mithyatva siddhi, then the sansara loses its grip over you. Like, let's remember the childhood experience. So imagine somebody is frightening you, or somebody chasing you, some guy who's a couple of years elder to you, and you are about 3 or 4. So he frightens, he wants to pick up a fight with you. And suddenly you see your mom. You are very scared that he's going to beat me up. And you are running back to your mom. Your mom picks you up. Are you scared of that little boy who was frightening you? No, you're not bothered at all. You are very confident once you are reunited. Now, once we get reunited with that supreme consciousness, samsara anyway loses its grip over us. It becomes useless. It will exist, It will not frighten us. That's what he's saying, that Vedamaya Sansara Prashamanatmaka Trana Dharmata Cha Asya Niruchyate. That is what he's going to explain in this particular mantra. That doing mantra sadhana. Why? One, unite with the source, the supreme light, and then discard this conditioned existence we call our life. We are able to discard, dismiss, overcome. Okay. And then you are immune to it. You are not affected by it. That is what he's explaining. Atacha mantra devata vimarsha paratvena prapta tat samarashyam aradhaka chittam eva mantraha. Therefore, he's saying, therefore, atacha mantra devata vimarsha paratvena. Mantra and mantra has a devata. And you're meditating on the devata. Om Namah Shivaya. So you see, there is some Bheda Buddhi. There is a mantra and there is a Adhishtatri Devata of that mantra. Vimarsha Paratvena, then you are concentrating on it. Prapta Tat Samarashyam, then you are having that Samarasata. And there is a mantri and mantra, these dualities are vanishing. Because there is Dhyakara Vritti, you become Shivamaya. Bhedamaya Sansara, we are a Jiva, a victim of Veda. Start doing mantra to nullify the game of this Bheda and this Maya's game around us. Once we start doing, you see, in Vedanta, this is the second chapter. You see, this is a bit of Upasana and Vichara together. So when we are doing mantra sadhana, he's explaining now that many of the problems, if you deeply think about it, they will say, okay, I'm having this problem. What do? You go to a guru or master, they will think deeply about your problem. Some people, of course, want to extract money from you. They'll say, buy this ornament, buy this particular Rudraksh or this gemstone and go to this temple, do this puja, all that. But those who are a bit internally inclined, spiritual counselors, they will tell you, you do this mantra japa or you do this sadhana. It has two purposes. One is the moment you do chanting of it, it has the power to redirect your attention on that devata. Even though it could be Saraswati or Lakshmi or whoever it is, of course, there'll be some specificity to that sadhana. But when you are maintaining your attention on the Parama Shiva Tattva, as per the Siva Sutra, which is a non-dualistic paradigm, when you are uniting with the source, and therefore the vagaries of being caught up in these diversity around us, we call our life, the samsara, it loosens this grip. It loses, and it's like you are getting constricted by a python. And doing mantra jatana, the moment you do mantra, ucharana and sadhana, and meditation, just imagine the python loses its grip over you. It's there, but you have breathing space. The more, because the python is not real. It's a creation of our own mind. It's like a person is supremely scared of a ghost in the next room, is sitting in this room and there's a ghost in the next room. Moment you switch on the lamps and say, actually, there's no ghost, come and see. And after some time, the fear goes. He realizes, actually, there's no spirit, nothing. It's a creation of the mind. Therefore, he's saying, by doing mantra sadhana, you are basically trying to neutralize the downward pull of samsara or any bad habit or any problem, whatever you are facing. And then you are starting the upward movement of your consciousness towards a reunion with the Supreme Consciousness. To me, this is the critical secret of this mantra sadhana. That we are essentially resetting. You're resetting your compass, your Google map or whatever, and then you are on a return journey to a state of comfort, not mental, but that's a state of reunion. So you are free from the fears and anxieties, the apurna manyata, swatantrihani, all helplessness and all that. They are going to lose their influence on you because you are now under the influence of the supreme deity of your mantra, which is Paramashiva. भेद मय संसार प्रशमनात्मक त्राण धर्मता च अस्य निरुच्यते अथ च मंत्र देवता विमर्श परत्वेन, because mantra is mantra devata paratvena, the sadhana प्राप्त तत्सामरस्यम आराधक चित्तम eva mantra. So once you get that samarasya, that harmony, that oneness, there is no distance or distinction between the mantra sadhaka and the mantra adhishtatri devata. So you have the mantri, the person who is meditating, then you have the mantra, then you have this virya of the mantra, and that is when that expansion, the virya itself, no different from that shakti, and that shakti is Paramashiva, and therefore you are going back to the source, and therefore you are coming under that spell, that divine spell, which neutralizes the evil influences of the lower experiences that happen. He's saying that mantra eva mantra. So that is, that mantra itself is chitta. Natu vichitra varna sanghathanatmaka matrams. Sanghatanat matram. So he's saying vichitra varna. So you have Om Ring, Swaha, or you sing Om Namaha Shivaya. So you have these words there, right? Vichitra varna sanghata. So you do sanghatanatmaka. So they are together, few words. Okay, no, it's not about that. Sanghatana matrakam. So it's not only a set of words. Yaduktam Srimat Sarvagyana Uttare. So in that particular thing, verse number 16 and 17, he's saying, Ucharyamana ye mantra na mantrangs chapi tana viduhu mohita deva gandharvaha mithya jnanena garvitaha. Now, whatever mantra is being chanted, so you have different ways of doing it, right? So para, pashyanti, madhyama, vaikhari, you can chant it aloud, you can just mutter it at a very low voice when your lips are moving or tongue is moving, and then pashyanti, even more subtler, and then para. So you become very quiet within. You absolutely pashyanti, madhyama, para, absolutely, this is paravak. And beyond that, okay, it's beyond words. You are not chanting. So we have discussed that earlier. We'll discuss it again. So ucharya mana ye mantraha na mantrang shapitan viduhu. The people who confuse mantra to be the words which are being chanted, they don't even know what is the mantra. Mohita deva gandharvaha mithya jnanena garvitaha. Whether it is devatas or the gandharvas who know all these mantras and they're very confident that with these mantras I'll destroy, I'll do this, I'll do that. They're essentially deluded because they are having this Bheda Jnana and they have no password to return to the Paravashiva Tattva, no liberation, no self-realization. They are, in a way, relishing their stupid duality from the Supreme Consciousness. And they think their special existence, which is delusional, is real, and they have some power. It's all self-delusion. There's nothing real about it. Then he's quoting again from another thing, Sri Tantra Sadabhavepi, another thing, Mantranang Jiva Bhutatu Yasmrita Saktiravyaya Taya Hina Bararohe Nispalaha Sarada Bhravat Mantranang Jiva Bhuta, that virya. Mantranang jiva bhuta ya smrita sakti avyaya. That avyaya sakti, that mantra virya, that infinite energy, which is the potency of the mantras, which is heard from the secret texts, the agamas, describe that avyaya sakti. That is the source, that is the soul of the mantra. That is the secret of the mantras. Tayahina, if the secret is not there, there is a person, beautiful body, his heart is not functioning. What is the use of that whole body? It is dead because the heart isn't pumping blood anymore. Similarly, the heart of the mantra, the soul of the mantra, is this Avyaya Sakti. And this Avyaya Sakti you achieve through meditation. When you learn the secret that Abhedatmaka Vichara or Vimarsha, on that Shakti, which will take you to realization of the Parama Shiva. That alone is real about it. Without it, no ascendance. You can do the mantra, you might get a couple of siddhis, God knows, but that is not the purpose of the mantra. Therefore, he's saying Taya Hina. Taya means what? That Abhyaya Sakti Hina Bararohe. Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, do you know? Nishphalaha Sarad Avravat. You see a few clouds in the autumn. In autumn, you have white clouds, they appear and disappear. They don't give you rain. Similarly, the mantras, unless we know the secret of the mantras, are not going to give us the real result of mantra chanting. We might do some sadhana, but we will not get the real result. It's not about siddhi, it's not about house, or car, or fame, and name, and influence. It's about self-realization. It's about freeing ourselves from the grip of this samsara. And that's not going to happen, because that only happens when we are able to reunite with the Supreme Consciousness. Therefore, that is how he's putting it. And then his father is quoting from Sri Sri Kantiya Sanhitayam tu. He's saying another example. Prithag mantraha prithag mantri na siddhyati kadachana. That we have discussed again and again. This mantra, this particular couplet is very powerful. Prithag mantraha. Mantra is different, mantri is different. The chanting person is different from the mantra. If he has that duality in mind, na siddhyati kadachana, he'll never ever get the result. Jnanamulam idam sarvam anyatha naiva siddhyati. Jnanamulam idam sarvam. Now you see, the secret about upasana, a lot of people will like to divide it. This is karma yoga, this is bhakti yoga, this is jnana yoga. So in bhakti, then you have namocharana or a japa yoga, part of upasana. Now what he's saying, jnana moolam idam sarvam anyatha naiva siddhyati. So the trick is that any chanting of the mantra without knowing what are the secret meaning and what are the purpose of chanting, and ultimately we want to reunite with that Parama Shiva Tattva, it will not give us the desired result. It's like a person who doesn't know how to operate a car. Let's imagine that it is a AI supported energy efficient electric car, very sophisticated. Or maybe that it is an air taxi, it can also fly. Now these machines, new toys are going to come into the market. Now he buys one of these new toys, paying a few $1 million because he's a rich guy, and he brings that machine. What's the use of that machine? He knows how to operate it? No. He'll just be having it. It's like sometimes out of excitement, you buy a very sophisticated camera and you're just taking stupid pictures because you don't even know how to operate it. So we might do mantra japa, but unless we know the secret behind it and how to meditate, and the key to this meditation is essentially to have that abhedatmaka chintana, then it doesn't give us any result. Therefore, saying prithag mantraha prithag mantrina siddhyati kadachana ityuktam etacha spande. In the spanda karaka, in the second chapter, the verses 26 and 27, and this is what is mentioned here also. Tadakramya valam mantraha sarvagya balasalinaha pravartante dhikaraya karanani vadehinam. So, there are two levels of these mantra siddhis and sadhanas. And I have already discussed that in the, I think, couple of classes before. When we are talking about mantra viryanubhavaha, we have mentioned about it, that a lot of sadhakas do some mantra sadhanas because they want bhukti. They want some power in the sansara. That is one level of sadhana. This second level of sadhana is tatreva sang praliyante shanta rupa niranjanaha saharadhaka chittena tenate shivadharminaha. The second category of these sadhakas, they are, what are they? Shanta rupa niranjanaha. They are no more attracted to this diversity, towards this duality. They don't want to achieve anything. they are having this mood of their awareness or consciousness that I have had enough of this. Now I want to have the supreme thing in me. So in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, if you remember, so all the siddhis we discussed, there is a dharma mega samadhi where there is a rain of lot of siddhis. No, he's tired of it. He wants to go to the next level. He doesn't take any interest in all this. Therefore, he's saying Anuttara Dhamanaha Paramashivasya, that Anuttara Satta, there is nothing beyond it. Anuttara Dhamanaha Paramashivasya, Ananya Sadharanaha, Sarvakartitva, Yatitvadi Gunadharmo Vidyate. In the Paramashiva, you have, he knows everything, he can do anything, and there is Sarva Ichha Sakti also. And there is Chit Shakti, Anandasya. Ateva ete mantraha, all these meditational mantras. Manana trana rupaha, doing manana, you will get liberated. Bhagavati Paramashive abhinnataya stitaha. Shiva Dharminaha. Who is a Shiva Dharmi here? The sadhaka. By constant meditation on the supreme dharma of the Shiva, they become Shiva Dharmi. And already we have discussed how the highest sadhaka, whatever he wishes happens, not because he has any ahankara. We are the stupid people who think that he is very powerful, he's materializing all these things, he's doing all this. No, he's not having any individual wish anymore. He is a reflector of the divine will. He has nothing individually to do because he has nothing to achieve. So he just grants something. Because you deserve it, he becomes a nimitta. He's a mediator. He's like a messenger for that supreme power. So he's just distributing maybe words of calmness and love or whatever. Sometimes you may appreciate, sometimes you may not. But he is not actually connected with the details because he has overcome all this and is permanently stable there like Ramana Maharshi. We only attribute individuality to this self-realized souls, whether it's Sri Aurobindo or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi. These are self-realized people. So we attribute individuality when they have none. They don't have any individuality. So Lord Shiva says, do you know, the sadhaka, whatever he wishes happens because I am verily in him. Because he doesn't exist anymore. I am there. He has become me. Now, whatever I want, I can do it. I do it. People think he's doing it because he's carrying that consciousness of mind. So that is what he's mentioning here. He's saying that Shantarupa Niranjanaha. So you know that Niranjanaha, and he's explaining here also that absolutely he's explaining what is that Niranjana, you know. Niranjana is that word that there is absolutely where in what Bararohi, there is one particular mention where this was again that Niranjana Sabda also was explained in a little great detail as to why that is he saying that Niranjana. You know, Niranjana means what? There are different ways when you can. One thing that is Kalusha Rahita. But the other one is that there is no imperfection. But the other one is that you do not see that Paramashiva as a Prameya Vastu. You are a Pramata. You are the knower. And Lord Shiva or Paramashiva is Prameya. That means it's distinct from you. Then you can know the way you are looking at a phone, you're looking at the computer screen, or you're looking at whatever device right now you're using to participate in the satsang, and you're listening to the voice, there is understanding of several distinctions. But Paramashiva and us, when we are doing this mantra sadhana, he's not different from us. Therefore, Niranjanaha. So they are not looking at Paramashiva as a Prameya Vastu, which is different from them. They are very dissolved. They are very much identified with. And that is what he is mentioning. Evam Mantri Mantra Devatashu. Mantri, Mantra and Devata, Adhishtatri Devata, Aradhya. Aradhaka Rupena Bhinna Buddhi Siddhi Naiva Praknoti. Aradhya Aradhaka. So whenever you have Dhyatri, Dhyana and Dhya, you have Bhinna Vritti, then there is no benefit. Only there is the Dhyatri Dhyanam Paritajya. When there is only Dhyakara Vritti, Dhyana and Dhyatri, the meditator and meditation, they lose their significance. There is only what is meditated on. And that is that Paramatattva. That liberates you quickly. Yato hi mananatrana rupaha mantraha jnana saktu avastitaha vartante. That these mantras are there, this mananatrana rupa, they are where jnana saktu avastitaha. The jnana, the you know, that Suddha Vidya, Ishvara, and Sadasiva. These tattvas, the jnana and kriyatmika saktis, they are established there to this meditation. And he's saying jnana sakto avastitaha vartante ateva labdha jnana saktihi rupa mahaviryaha samagra siddhi pradayakaha bhavanti. So they can give you all liberation, not house and car, but full liberation of your consciousness. Yadahu vasugupta padaha spandakarikayam. That is what we just mentioned, these two sutras. This is how. There is a little more commentary which will make it further, this whole thing a little more clearer. What he's mentioning here is saying, whenever you have that, he's mentioning tathacha uktam smatma anubhava dharmitvat sa mantra iti giyate. It gives you self-realization. That is why it is called mantra. So it has a very expansive, okay, and a very very elevated interpretation of what is a mantra. It is not a tool for any minor siddhi, but it is a tool for meditating on your supreme consciousness, which is Paramashiva, and thus overcoming, transcending the limiting influences of the samsara. Ateva paraspurana shwarupa manana dharmata paraspurana shwarupa manana dharmata tatha bhedatmaka sansara santi rupa trana dharmata asya uchate. Two aspects. One is identification with the Supreme Self. The other one is deletion, discarding of the influences, the limitations, the downward pulls of the samsara on us. Okay, so that is what he's essentially again and again he's mentioning, that you have that Vedatmaka Sansara Shanti Rupa Trana Dharmata. So you have that Shanti of this whole Sansara influencing. You have a lot of Upadravas. You have a lot of disturbances. And they have been pacified. Why? Because of the Mantra Shakti, that meditation. And therefore you are there at that highest level. So that is how we have come to the end of this first sutra. Okay. Is there anything interesting in any other commentators? No. Broadly, we are done with the commentaries, and we'll go to the next sutra tomorrow, which is the second sutra. Any follow-up discussions also I'll try to include tomorrow. Any questions? We have just about a minute. Any questions from anyone? Yes.
Swamiji, one question.
Yes, please do.
Suppose someone is chanting or reading some mantras from different scriptures, let's say, and the person is the meaning of the mantra is clear to the person, but the exact meaning of each and every word of the mantra is not very clear to that person. So in that case, does the mantra is there any effect or is there any negative effect on that person?
Okay, first let me clarify. Whatever you're mentioning basically covers 99% of the people who are doing mantra sadhanas. What we are discussing today is the secret science of trying to understand that the words and other things that you are doing are less important, and the main goal of the mantra is to uh, focus on the supreme consciousness. Okay, and of course there are different mantras. So obviously, if you are ever learning any mantra, and this mantra science here, each word, there will be some discussion about it. Like, for example, you have a, a, e, this whole science of the varnas. Like you have these vargas, ka, ka, ga, ga, ga. So all these are vargas. So all these vargas have their adhishtatri devatas. They have their own significance. So there is a large field of science on how different Bija mantras carry different significance. And so what you're saying that obviously it's like buying a camera which you don't know how to operate. So you own the camera, you'll be able to take pictures, but you'll not be able to get all the effects the camera can give you because you don't know how to operate it. But doesn't mean it'll harm you. Of course, you may take, it's like you don't know how to take a landscape photography. A lot of people, they take pictures, and I have done it. So you are operating a good camera, you take pictures, you come, and then what do you see? After you come home, you're checking the camera. When you put it on your computer, you look at it. So it's all hazy. You don't know how to do it, how to take long distance landscape pictures. These are techniques involved, and how to understand your lens, or how to use it. So this you learn with experience. Same way here, the mantra Vijnana. So first thing, there is a book on it in Kashmiri Saivism, and we are going to deal with it in this chapter as we move forward. So mantra, obviously, you need to know, but how much you know? Again, there are two paths in this whole thing. It's quite possible that you will become an expert in analyzing mantra. You'll become an academic. Okay, that's another field. The other one is that somebody who is rather simple, straightforward. He is not into Panini grammar. He doesn't know too much about all this.